Welcome to Memorable Marketing by Media Group. This is episode 18, and today we're interviewing Jeffrey Khoo, who is the CMO of Ed Brokerage, which is an insurance and reinsurance company in Singapore. Normally we talk about SEO, we talk about digital marketing. Today we're talking about the human connection through marketing. And Jeffrey has managed to go from 200 connections on LinkedIn to 22,000 connections on LinkedIn. It's a very fresh perspective. It's a different way. It's a breath of fresh air. It's a really good episode. Stay tuned.
So it's you either innovate or you perish, right?
Thank you, Jeffrey Khoo. Thank you for joining us on Memorable Marketing by Media Group. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Jeff, what is Ed?
Well, okay, that's a little bit of a story here.
Yeah.
Now, it's Ed Broking. We are an insurance broking firm or insurance and reinsurance broking firm.
Yeah.
We are part of a bigger group called Adorna. Adorna Group. It's a UK-based group. So Ed itself as a company has roughly about 400 odd people. And then we belong to the bigger Adorna Group, which is about 8,000 over people.
Wow.
So Ed, Besso Broking, Globe Underwriting, these are all fully owned entities of Adorna Group based out of UK.
Okay.
Right?
All right. So it's part of that whole group. So when you say your insurance and reinsurance, I mean, for the layman, I mean, most people know they have a car insurance, comprehensive coverage, then they have insurance on their house. But the insurance you guys are doing, what is that exactly?
Okay, so the way the insurance market works is more or less through brokers, you know, because, for example, you have a large company, you've got different insurance needs, and you have a broker that comes in and say, look, you know, these are your risk issues, and they sort of say, okay, let's say for your production, you have this kind of risk, for your staff, you have this kind of risk, for your building, you have this kind of risk, and they sort of work together to come up with some kind of a package, and then they work with different insurers to actually to cover you, literally, right? So this is the job of the broker. So this will be more the direct broker, the guy that actually deals with the companies, right? And then the reinsurance broker comes in is when, let's say, you have a huge plantation to insure, and the insurance company would not want to take the whole risk. So they sort of spread it out, and it gets reinsured through a reinsurance company.
Got it.
Right? So reinsurance is more like the insurance for the insurance company.
Right? Okay. So everybody... So you spread the risk and everybody takes a little bit of the damage if something happens. Yeah.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay. And I also saw somewhere that you are a broker for Lloyd's. Is that correct?
Yes. So I think most of the credible brokers are all Lloyd brokers out of London. So it's a little bit of a distinction that you are Lloyd's broker. There's a certain credibility behind it. As you know, Lloyd's is really the main market or the market that started it hundreds of years ago, right? For the insurance business. Okay. Yeah, so we are Lloyd's broker. Yes.
Okay. What is your background and how did you end up at Ed Brokerage?
This is an interesting story.
Okay.
I used to run plantations. So I was a botanist, run plantations and factories, and all in the agriculture space. And with time, I ended up joining Swiss Re, which is another big reinsurance company, particularly to head up their agriculture insurance business in Asia, right? So I used to do that. They needed someone who actually knew what they were talking about when you talk to the clients. Right? You couldn't just go around there and start selling stuff you don't understand. So I joined them for about 4 or 5 years. After that, then I switched on to join Ed Broking or Coran Group at that point of time, right? And my job mainly, a bulk of it is to help out with their agriculture MGAs, which I'll explain what's an MGA later.
Yes.
Right. So and I also now help out the other MGAs like marine transport, things like parametric insurance, which a big word which I can also explain later. Yeah. Right. So maybe I talk about the MGAs. MGAs are what we call managing agents.
Yeah.
So this is how it works. Now, insurance, there are many areas of insurance, many kinds of risk. So certain types of risk, large insurance companies may not have the kind of talent to actually do the underwriting, basically to understand the risk. Yeah. So we are specialists, right? So for example, my team in forestry, they've been doing it for about almost 30 years. It's been a long time,
Yeah.
And all they do is forest. They're the kind of guys that go into the forest, look at the ground and say, hey, this place is dangerous. It can burn out quickly. Or say, hey, look, this is a very well-maintained forest.
Yeah.
So these guys have really deep experience in this. And the insurance companies will give them the capacity or the rights, as you call it in layman's term, to write the risk. So they literally almost become an insurance company themselves.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. So I'm doing that for forestry line and also for marine transport line, right?
Okay.
And barometric. Right.
Got it. So if I have a forest or if I have a big ship or if I'm trying to send a rocket into space, I need insurance, right? That's what you're saying.
Absolutely, everything. In fact, like we are talking here, right? We're having a chat here. In the event that, let's say, for example, the electricity gets knocked down, there's an outage and all that. Guess what? That can be insured too.
Yeah, of course, always. All right. Okay, interesting. From a botanist to CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. I love that the label of Chief Marketing Officer is not a protected label. There's not any exams or bars to pass. We all come from different pathways, different journeys into life to end up being a Chief Marketing Officer. That's what's so interesting, and I think that's really fun. So tell me about how do you market to your clients when they range from aerospace to fine art? I saw on your website. It's a very broad, different categories from aerospace to the fine art.
Okay, maybe I talk a little bit about the different teams within the company. It's pretty wide, right? So we collaborate across the board. I collaborate with people from Globe Underwriting, which also belongs to Adona, and also Besso and so on and so forth. Many companies, right? So the thing is that for the insurance brokerage business, you deal directly with the retail companies. So that requires a lot of hand-holding, getting to know the client and all that. So that's a personal touch issue, right? Then for the reinsurance broking business is that you need to get to know insurance brokers.
Got it.
Right? So you take one step back and you get to know insurance brokers, right?
Yes.
So a lot of my work has to do with talking to these brokers across the globe.
Yeah.
Right? And I would say that it's become pretty challenging. But maybe I would talk a little bit about how it was done before, and I'll talk about it, how is it done now. Because
correct. Yeah, okay.
There are two different worlds that we are facing now, right? So prior to COVID, the usual style would be that, you would have all these conferences that you go to, and a lot of brokers will be there. You get to know each other. They get to know your skill sets. And then if they have issues getting capacity or certain solutions, they come to you. So that's the old style. And of course, when you go and do your market visits, let's say you go to Thailand, you visit all the brokers down there in 2-3 weeks, get to know them and all that. So that's the usual style of marketing, right? Not so much of online, because there is a lot of fine-tuning needs to be done. It is not a one-size-fits-all. So a lot of that is usually the case, right? And of course, a little bit of online, a little bit of advertisements here and there. But the real impact is a relationship.
Yes.
Okay, so that's how that works. Now, COVID hit. So the interesting thing is that I joined the group in December 2020, just before COVID hit, right? Yeah. So I joined in, I did 1 or 2 trips, and then that's it. I was grounded, right? I mean, I had nowhere else to go. So
planes were flying.
There was not much of a solution, except that you have to go online, right? Yeah. Because, and I can tell you, there was an interesting change, right? Because I used to spend every week, almost every week, flying, visiting customers and all that. Even in my previous role, every week I was living off a suitcase.
Yeah.
But as COVID hit, right, there's no chance of that.
No.
So it's you either innovate or you perish, right? Because you have no value to the company anymore. You can't reach out to anybody, right? So what was fortunate for me is that prior to COVID hitting, I had quite a huge LinkedIn following, right? So because I write a lot about these subjects and all that, and it reached out, I think, about 20,000 people. And it helped. And these people were not random. They're mainly in the insurance and agriculture field, right? So what I did was that from that point, I said, okay, fine, I'll reach out to them now instead of just hello, a like and all that, right? To actually really email to them, talk to them, find out their needs, right? And then slowly, with time, I built an even bigger base of those who are really interested in what I'm doing and could benefit from what I'm doing, and then contacting them more regularly.
Okay.
So it took a bit of time to do that.
Okay, so you went from being on the road, literally on an airplane constantly, to just using LinkedIn as a marketing tool to reach out to the people you already know and people you didn't know through LinkedIn marketing. So is that the only marketing you do for Ed Brokerage?
No, actually, the thing is that LinkedIn is just a starting point.
Yes.
Right. So once you have the emails, once you have the phone numbers and all that, there's no avoiding calling them up, setting up Zoom meetings. In fact, I have Zoom meetings like this every other day, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
And I'm in Singapore. If I have Zoom meetings with guys in London, I start calling them at 5, 6 o'clock. If they're in US, then it's going to be quite tough for me. It's going to be after midnight my time, right?
I hear you.
So you need to have that part done. You need to really organize those online meetings. Without those, LinkedIn alone, emails alone, honestly will not cut it.
No.
Right? Yeah, it will not cut it. People need to at least see you, right?
Of course.
And the good news about it is that unlike previously where everybody was flying around, guess what? It's easier to get them because they are also stuck at home.
Yes, with their families, and they want anything to escape.
Exactly. So so it's quite fun. Maybe I talk to them, and then they show me, oh, this is what's happening in my country. They take their camera and show me what's happening outside in places like Panama, places like Venezuela, places that I never stepped in my life sometimes. And they show me, see, because certain countries I have not covered in my career. And through this kind of Zoom calls or team calls, you get to know them better.
Okay,
right?
that sounds...
So it's multiple use. You have Zoom. Of course, you've got the standard stuff like your WhatsApp calls.
Okay.
And sometimes when you get to have the numbers, it's easier to actually be very dynamic about it. Say, look, there's this issue with the policy, or there's some questions, and they just WhatsApp me. Okay. So it's not restricted to just one form of social media or kind of communication platform.
I see. But in terms of marketing, do you do any ads on LinkedIn? Do you run any marketing ads, or do you do any ads on other sites? Do you do any promotional, any content creation?
Yes, I do content creation in a few ways. Let me give you an example.
Sure.
Now, you cannot keep on selling the same product to them all the while, right? Property insurance is always the same thing. The wordings have not changed for the past 20, 30 years, so it's not interesting. It's just fighting on price, right? So what I would do with my colleagues, with the MGAs, is that, look, I would sit down with them and say, look, what's your new product? What have you got down there, right? That's different from everyone else, right? What makes you so special that instead of buying insurance from them, they got to buy insurance from you? So I get it out of them, right? I will target all these brokers that I already know who they are, and to see which regions. And then from down there, I'll directly contact them, email them, and all that, and then set up calls from there. So it has to be very targeted.
Okay, so it's very targeted, but it's still a manual process where you are involved in reaching out, setting up calls, setting up Zoom calls, and that's how you run your business. And I'm this maybe again I used to sell insurance when I was a young man. I remember selling car insurance and house insurance and all stuff. I was a phoner. I answered the phone when they called in, and I then branched out into filmmaking. That was a little more exciting for me. But in terms of so I understand the basic insurance, but what I'm a little bit surprised to hear is, because you're a very big company, is that you're not using online ads. You're not using digital marketing. Are you? Is that true?
We do some of it because they're all individual groups, right?
Yes.
So I only take care of this portion of it. So you got other directors that are handling other portions. But for this particular portion, most of the time when you have new information or new products, right, we'll push it out. Let's say through LinkedIn, new content. I will put it up. Some of my colleagues will put it up. And then we'll coordinate from there. So we use that, and that also actually gains us a lot of traction.
Got it. Okay. All right. So no search engine optimization. When people are searching for something on Google in your area, does your website pop up? Do you have any ads surrounding that?
Oh, definitely it will pop up. Because I will ensure that we have a team of guys that are actually very active doing this. Making sure that we're always in front of people's eyes. Okay, good. So you're doing so. For example, now I have about 1,000 odd brokers that I work. I mean, about every other second week they receive an email of new products and all that, and then the responses will just keep on coming in, right? So they won't forget who we are.
Okay, so it's a very personal related business. Okay, but in terms of getting new clients and getting new, again, I know you understand you're going through brokers and you have to go through these brokers who are then reinsuring with everyone else. But in order to drum up new business of new brokers, is that also through LinkedIn, or is that through some online advertisement in any way or form?
Actually, we don't do too much of that, at least for my side of the business, right? We don't do too much of that. It is mainly through the LinkedIn network and various networks, right? To actually get to know these guys. And in many cases, they are in associations.
Of course.
So, for example, if you go to Poland or to Austria, whichever countries and all that, even Australia, right? So you have the Brokers Association there and all that. So from there, you do your research, you get to know people, and then you start reaching out to all of them.
Okay.
Right. So it's more precise in the sense, right?
Yeah, and it sounds. I know you said conference before COVID hit, but it still sounds very man-on-man and very personal relationships, which I think is awesome, because many businesses are now moving so much online. They're constantly focused on getting new clients, but they may be not so good at maintaining the clients they already have. Whereas what you guys are doing through LinkedIn is doing a lot of connection, constantly reaching out to them. Is that correct, what I'm hearing?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, we're all humans. So you see a face, you hear a voice.
Absolutely,
he tells a joke. He talks about his family. I've got guys that I talk to that a cat walks by. They remember me. My rabbit walks by. They remember me. So things like that sticks in your mind, right?
Of course it does.
And therefore, say, if I have a particular kind of insurance, I will call Jeffrey.
Okay,
so
that's good.
That is my purpose when I reach out to them. Yeah.
Did you say earlier you have 20,000 people on LinkedIn, or is that on your personal profile, or is the company profile?
No, it's my profile.
Wow.
So, it's my personal profile. The thing is that I think at the end of the day, yes, the company does have. I would say that it's not as much as mine. The thing is that people want to connect with people, not really with companies at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. They want to know who they're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
Because if you see an ad, for example, who is behind the ad? Who am I going to speak to? Do I trust this person, right?
No, absolutely.
And how do I find out more about this person? It's difficult.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go onto my LinkedIn or even my Facebook, you sort of know who I am, right? You can go through the questions and answers that I've done and all that. I put out some articles, you read through, say, hey, I think this guy got to give him the benefit of the doubt. He seems to know what the heck is he talking about. And then that gives credibility.
You're a super power broker on LinkedIn, 20,000. That's very, very impressive.
Yeah, it took me about 2 years, about 3 years to do it.
Wow. Going from what number to 20,000?
From about 200. So
from 200 to 20,000 in 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm impressed. Okay, now I understand what you're doing. I was just trying to, again, it's a marketing podcast, so we try to talk about marketing, how you do it, and how every CMO has their own way they want to do it, which I love. But I like here that you're really just using LinkedIn, which is impressive, and you got 20,000 people on LinkedIn. That's very powerful. Well done.
Thank you. It's a lot of effort because you need to actually write good articles. You actually need to answer people well and not, give silly off-the-cuff answers, right?
No.
Because some of the questions can be very technical.
Of
so
course,
you need to make sure you answer them well. Because the moment you answer, everybody will read it.
Of course.
This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm not coming back.
No. This guy, he seems very So when you write an article on LinkedIn, how many people see it? How many people comment on it? How involved are you afterwards?
Oh, I can probably get about 10 to 20, something with 60,000 views.
Okay.
So it can be quite a lot.
Oh. Yeah. Good on you. That's impressive. All right. So I'm just going to ask more technical questions about the more digital marketing part of you. So you said you had a team of people who sit and make sure that every time somebody's typing in something in the Google search bar, that your company shows up. So you are doing SEO, but you're not involved in the search engine optimization. Another team is.
Okay. I have colleagues that do this kind of, but I wouldn't say that as well organized as you would say in this way, right? Because my team is rather small.
Yeah.
So, but I think the main bulk of that work, right, is actually done by me, because it's my network per se, right? And then I've created a persona, so it has to be always myself that reaches out to these guys.
You're personified all the time. So you told me earlier that you're actually on annual leave right now. You're on vacation right now, but you're still working. I mean, you were talking to us, and I presume on LinkedIn you never really have something off because people reach out to you, you reply to them. There's always something to do on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I like what I do. So in the sense that marketing is all about passion, right? If you don't have the passion for it, I can tell you, it will show. Your voice, people can interpret it. Yeah. If you're going to be very laid back and you're going to sell a product, come on, if you don't believe in the product, then why in the heck would somebody buy from you in the first place?
If you don't believe, that's true.
The passion will show, because body language can be read. I mean, 90% of, when you meet people, you can really see whether this guy is, taking you for a ride, or is he interested, or is he just ticking the box, right?
Yeah.
So I always believe that in selling or in marketing, that portion must always be there.
Yeah. Wow. And it's just refreshing to hear a different perspective. And that's what's so good about this podcast. I get to talk to different people in marketing and they all have different views. And I think it's just so refreshing. It's good to hear. Good. So how do you... So we talked a little bit about you write an article on LinkedIn, you can go up to 10 to 20 to 60,000 views. That's a lot. How do you measure that? Can you say, okay, I'm going to write an article. If I write an article, I'll get new clients out of it. We'll do some new business out of it. How do you measure that? Is that a way for you to engage with that?
Actually, the best way to go about doing it is when they start to directly message me, which is quite a few.
Yes.
Then you really know those are real.
Yeah.
I mean, I will split the responses into cold, not so cold, and hot.
Hot,
right?
yes.
So basically, the hot ones are roughly about 1,000 that I have now. So these guys will regularly reply to whatever I have.
Yeah.
Then the cold ones, and I mean not so hot ones, and then the cold ones. The whole idea is to slowly move these guys towards this side of the fence, right? Yeah.
Get them in the funnel.
So with every post or with every email blast and all that, sometimes these guys shift here, right? So it's a very interesting game, because at the end of the day, because of the size of the insurance brokerage business, people resign and they leave and join another company.
Of course they do. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a good thing because when this guy leaves here, right, I will sort of get to know who is left.
Yeah.
And he also goes to another company and I get to know someone else more.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So sort of expands. Or in certain cases, I send maybe about 20, 30 new products.
Yeah.
This guy in the middle, the not so hot, not so cold guys, not interested. And out of the blue, boom, he suddenly says, hey, you know what? What you just sent over? It's interesting. We want to talk further, right?
Okay.
So sometimes it surprises me. Some guy who doesn't answer my mails maybe for, 10 odd mails, and I thought I did a beautiful job writing it. Suddenly out of nowhere, say, hey, look, I want to buy this. So
that's awesome.
So that's fun. It's very exciting when that happens, right? Yeah.
So your LinkedIn is your CRM. It's your client relation management. You use LinkedIn as your CRM. Other people use external software, but this is your software you use. When you send out emails, how many email addresses do you have in your? Is that the same with 20,000 for? Do you send both email and LinkedIn?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I collect all of them because once you're linked to them, you got all the email addresses.
Yeah.
So that one is no issue. But usually, I will try to get hold of their both their personal and the corporate.
Yes.
But the reason is very simple. People move. But the personal email address will not change.
Yeah, personal will always be there.
If they move else, we can still contact them. But if you just only keep their corporate address, sometimes you cannot get hold of them anymore.
Yeah, because most people only leave their personal email address on LinkedIn because if they want to be in touch about another job, it's always, hey, here's my private email, right? So yeah, you get that. Okay, that's very, very impressive. I like that a lot. So what campaigns are you the most proud of and why? Can you tell me a campaign that you thought went really, really well?
I think that we did a parametric campaign. So parametric meaning, I'm not sure whether you're familiar with this, but I'll put it in very simple terms. Parametric insurance is a new kind of insurance.
Yeah.
So, for example, if now we're having a bad weather, and for example, if it rains very heavily for 3 consecutive days, I want $10,000, right? So that kind of insurance actually exists. And how does it work? Is that if the weather station reports for 3 solid days, there was non-stop rain, there's a payout. So there's no checking about whether you made a loss, whether anybody drowned, all these things doesn't matter. As long as the weather station reports 3 days of heavy rain, the money comes out, right?
Yeah.
So this is called parametric insurance. It's based on a third-party data and nothing else.
Got it.
Unlike normal insurance where when you bang the car, you have to check whether you really did bang the car.
Yeah.
So it's a bit different. That kind of product, the response was fantastic, right? So, I sent out about probably both online and through emailing and also through WhatsApping because I got most of their numbers, right? The response was very good. I was very surprised that even people who hardly understood this, right? Were all reaching out to me trying to find out more about this particular kind of cover. And with time, even insurance companies that I know are telling me, hey, we are going to shift from the normal insurance to this kind of insurance. right?
Well, it makes it simpler for everyone to understand. The problem is when you have an insurance, you've got to read 17 pages, and there it is at the bottom, buried in a blue line that, hey, no, you're not covered because this thing was not meant to be said. You didn't yell, stop the thief, or you didn't get, whatever it might be that has happened. You didn't do what was supposed to say in the policy. If you didn't do that, well, you're not covered. And people don't understand. I sold insurance, but most people don't understand insurance. I don't always understand insurance. It's a very complex thing, this policy. And also the insurance company, I mean, some insurance companies make it a business out of not being so good at releasing the money when they're supposed to release. But if there's a factor that is a third party that says, when this happens, then we go, I like that. We should move towards that. I always wondered in insurance, layman's term is always if it's God's will. I mean, so how do we define that? When our force majeure or something like that. But what clarifies a force majeure, or what clarifies God's will? I mean, it's such a arbitrary term to use in an insurance policy. But this is, if it rains 3 straight days for 3 days, this much millimeter every day, then we know it's payout.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
In the old days, it would sound like we're insuring God, right? I mean, only God knows the weather. But
I have none chance of God. What does he mean?
But the reality is that it is very data driven, which means, I give you a simple example. If I was going to charge you a premium for those 3 days, right? I would go back, let's say, 100 years worth of data.
Of course,
I'll work it through at a particular time, this time in December, from, let's say, 12, 13, 14, 10, 11, 12, these 3 days, would it rain? I work my way backwards 100 years, I get the data, and I look at the odds, and then after that, I put a little bit of administrative cost and profitability, and then I charge you for it, right? So it's not plucked from the air.
No.
It is very data driven.
Yes. Okay, of course it is, But also with climate change, which I know is also a topic that you want to talk about, is that things are changing. I mean, the weather now will rain more or more. I mean, Australia, where we have bushfires, I mean, there's one happening in Perth right now. And we had some serious ones last year at the start of COVID. The year started with a bang. First we got the bushfire, and then, boom, COVID hit. It was really hard. So as an insurance company, when you see climate change and you see that, of course, affects how you insurance and how the payouts are coming, right? And that's why you're talking about the reinsurance all the time.
Yep. Let me say a bit more about climate change and how it impacts insurance.
Yes.
So the thing is that generally, of course, weather patterns will be more erratic. These severe events will be actually more frequent and, of course, more severe in a sense. So the typhoons will get stronger, the fires will get more frequent and all that, right? So the thing is that it is still insurable, okay? It's still insurable. You can find data to do it. In our business, it's always very clear. At the end of the day, everything is insurable. It's just the price. Right?
Well, a high price. A high price is also.
Then, you can find a way to insure it, right?
But a high price sometimes is also a way to say no. You just charge so much money. Okay, they don't want to insure me.
Exactly. So I had many clients that I spoke to. They say, "Why is the price so high?" Because the truth of the matter is that the odds are happening are very high. So I'll give you an example of the Philippines. Maybe about 10, 15 years ago, if you wanted to buy a typhoon cover there, the rate online, meaning how much we charge, is like maybe could be 1-2% out of $1 million. That's the price we charge. Okay, $1 million being the payout amount. Now you want to do this, where they're so frequent, right? You're anywhere between 5 to 10% of the rate online, right?
Okay.
So things do change, right?
Yeah, of course.
So insurance companies always have to be on the alert, to know the frequency, and then we work it out.
Of course.
I think that the point I want to share is that parametric has increased a lot of usage here is because, for example, in COVID now, we have a forest fire. So you have a forest fire, let's say somewhere in China, for example. Now, for me to go to China, few things will happen. Number one, I have to be fully vaccinated. That's okay. Then after that, I have to go in. I'm going to spend 3 weeks in a hotel or so, depending on, what the rules are at that point of time. And then I get to go out, right? So now, with all of that happening, how do I assess the loss? I mean, the fire were burnt out, if there's any wrongdoing and other, it's all gone, right? So it's difficult to do it in person anymore.
Yes.
Right. So that's the reason why we actually have parametric. Parametric helps out a lot, which means you say, okay, look, I use the satellite data. I see the amount of red color there, for example, that's burnt out, and I pay it to you, based on a certain formulation, right?
Okay.
So we can possibly do that.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, that makes more sense. All right. Interesting. All right, so I like that. So what is your 5 to 10 year vision? I mean, what are you going to take LinkedIn to? Are we going to go to 100,000. What's the plan here? Is LinkedIn going to keep being the primary force how you communicate in email?
I think that LinkedIn will not be there forever. There'll be some other platform coming out. This is life. People move on. Yeah. I think the important thing is to at least keep a base of good clients or brokers. In my case, right?
Yeah.
Always at least within your good old trusty phone. Okay, this thing doesn't really screw up too often. Yeah. So you actually have the phone, you have the information there, and you build that relationship. So I think that part is important. I think LinkedIn, of course, is a great platform. I will continue to utilize it, right? Yeah. But to reach 100,000 would be great. But it's not the volume that matters; it's the quality that matters, right?
Yeah.
You can have also 50,000 students following you, so there's no use.
Yeah.
Because they cannot buy anything.
No.
From me, right?
Yeah. I understand.
So I try to be very careful with who I actually accept and all that.
Okay.
So because you can just find a small village in some third world country and then invite them all in and voila, you might have that kind of amount, right?
Yeah.
But it's important to actually link with the people that matter.
Okay, interesting. And so you're saying that where will you be in 5-10 years with you keep doing the LinkedIn promoting or another platforms coming up? Because there's only one of you. My digital marketing, the way it normally works is that you've got lots of clients coming in through the funnel, they fill out some forms, they go in, and then you talk to them. But it seems like in your case, you are the digital marketer. You are the one using digital social media, but you're also the bottleneck, right? I mean, there's constantly things happening. If you don't respond, if you don't reply, then nothing will happen. So you constantly gonna be on top of that.
So I am the doorkeeper, but I basically let the people in the door very quickly and then pass them on to the next door very quickly.
Okay.
So if the response comes in, right? Yeah. Then let's say, for example, I'm doing a forestry sort of little blitz going around and all that. You'll straight away go to my forestry underwriter. Yeah. He has to settle it from that point. Then I'll go on to the next door. Yeah. Right. So it's very quick. It doesn't land always continuously by hand because I can't deal with it because today 1 hour later could be actually something on ship liability coming in, right? Yeah. So so my function would to basically open doors. Yeah. When they come in, it filters out to the rest of the guys. Yeah. And that's it, right? Because if I don't do that, you're right. I will be the bottleneck.
Yeah, right? We are the
Everything
gatekeeper.
will come to me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what advice would you give to other CMOs out there, the ones who don't have 20,000 people they can follow on LinkedIn? What's your advice to them?
I think that everything starts from a small number, right? Yeah. You can start to either use LinkedIn. I think at this point of time, of course, you can go through your company database of who you worked with before. By the way, also, customers that have fell off 10 years ago, we could even still contact them and then suddenly they become customers again, right? Yeah. So I would say that be valuable to your clients at the end of the day, right? Yeah. So even if I contacted them, for example, this 10, 20,000 and all that, but if I have no use to them, this will not translate to business. So at the end of the day, right, is always ask yourself this very simple question: how are you useful to this particular client? Okay. Right? If you've got no use, you don't have an angle, then even if you have 100,000 links, it will not translate.
No.
Right.
Okay. So you recommend grow your LinkedIn followers because you went from 200 to 20,000 in 3 years. I'm still blown away by that number. That's very impressive.
22,000 and growing.
Yeah, that's impressive. Do you have in your company? You mentioned before. I keep jumping forth and back here, but you mentioned that there's a group of team who sit and do the search engine optimization. So you do have a marketing teams, but you don't talk to that marketing team. Is that correct?
We don't. You see, the way it operates is that a lot of the brokers themselves also act as marketeers because, at the end of the day, it's a service. Yes. Right? It's not really a product per se, because we are not, in a purest sense, an insurance company, right? Okay. So they have to do their own marketing, getting to know that. That's why the Lloyd's market is famous for this, right? I mean, you actually have all these lunches and a lot of beer. I mean, end of the day, right? Yeah. Going to the pubs and all. It's just part of the way. Yes, that's a lot of deals are done there, right? Yeah. This was the internet of the days past, right?
Oh yeah.
So these guys also have to do it themselves. With regards to climate change, I think we can do a lot more. Yeah. Right. Being in the insurance business and all that, right? Yeah. Seeing the losses going up and some losses that some basically it's uninsurable. You have mentioned it yourself earlier, right? That, basically it's too high and all that.
Yeah.
Right? So I think everybody needs to be operating in a sustainable manner.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and coming from a very huge company, we are very careful with who we operate with.
Yeah.
You don't end up operating and supporting insurance for, let's say, somebody who does illegal logging, somebody who is doing unsustainable practices, right? So we should never promote that kind of business, right?
Have to be ethical, right? We have to what's great for the planet. Exactly. Of course, we got to make money, but we also got to do what's right for the planet. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very
that's the only thing. That's for the future, because it's something that I feel passionately about, and I do talk at a lot of conferences about it. Yeah. And sometimes it gets a little bit too straight, because at the end of the day, right? I always tell my audience that why are we having these issues with climate change? Is it politics? Is it is it the weather itself? Is it a natural situation? I can tell you the main reason is actually one simple reason. It's called greed.
Yeah, it's greed. Absolutely. Yeah,
it's greed.
About money.
There's nothing else. Some guys wants to make more money than you, and therefore he's sucking the life out of Earth to put it at your expense, right?
Exactly.
And so that's actually what it is at the end of the day. Some countries say, "Oh, look, I don't want to follow the rules and all that." It's because it all boils down to dollars and cents, right?
Exactly.
So if we can sort of be very frank with ourselves and say, look, a few $1 billion less, it's okay. You don't have to buy too many Rolls Royce. It's all right.
I mean, how many houses can you sleep in? How many shoes can you wear? How many cars can you drive? How many boats can you be on? It's just, I mean, I hear you loud and clear. So, Jeffrey, right before we got on, you and I had a little chat. You said you just won an award on LinkedIn. Can you tell more about that?
Well, there was a company that approached me out of LinkedIn, actually. They basically are giving awards to people who are very active on LinkedIn.
Yes.
They are a marketing firm also.
Yeah.
It's based out of Hong Kong. So they had this Imargey, Imargey, I think.
Okay.
And they got a few nominees, and I was one of them. So as always, I wanted to know more, right? Because if they're going to use my name and all that.
Yeah.
So I spoke to them, and I was pretty convinced that, it's good to actually be part of this, right? So they did some analytics, to see what you post and how you influence people and whether you have good conversations. So out of, I don't know how many they got, myself and about 18 others who have got this award, and it was announced today.
Okay.
So that included guys from chief marketing officers from companies such as HP, Microsoft, and so on and so forth. So it's quite a big group. Visa, all the very A-rated companies, right? So there are 19 of us, I think almost all in marketing, right? So I was quite happy to actually be among that.
Congratulations, that's amazing. And let me just ask about your skills on LinkedIn, because obviously if you're a power user, you are. I mean, do you teach yourself all these LinkedIn skills, or is it just getting better and better every day? Or why do you think you can go from 200 to 20,000?
I think it's to write and to present things that are interesting.
Yes.
Now, you're going to cut and paste, right? I mean, basically, in this world of Google, you basically find out that, there's nothing original about it, right?
No.
There's no original thought behind it, right? So you got to always come up with something that is innovative in a certain extent, and your presentation in the way you put it up.
Yeah.
Sometimes the problem with the world today is that there's simply too much information. So if you have the ability to simplify things and to make people understand it, I think that's very helpful. And people want a summary. Nobody wants to read through a LinkedIn post that's this long, and spend the next 5 minutes looking at this little screen, right? Come on.
Yeah.
So they want to look at it, probably spend 2-3 minutes, and so, okay, yes, I get it.
I get it, yeah.
So you must be able to give that to them, and then they'll come back to you, right? If you write something long, by the time they read the second paragraph, they'll give up.
I like that. That's a good note to think about, and also I think it's a good time to end this interview. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for being on here. It was really a breath of fresh air, as I've said before. It's just good to see someone else doing something different. I like it. I love it. And it was congratulations on the honor, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Zane. Thank you.
Regular listeners or people who watch us on YouTube will know that at the end of each podcast, I always bring in Zane. And who is Zane? Zane is our producer who's sitting in the background to make sure that everything sounds good. he can't change what I'm saying, and maybe he should, because I need to learn. I'm still learning, but he makes us sound good and also makes us somewhat look good. And saying it's always to get you. It's always good to get you to come in and have a little perspective on what we heard.
Yeah, this was really interesting, because this is a different industry than we usually talk about. And
yeah,
I was really interested in kind of the breadth of expertise that was kind of represented within the insurance industry, which makes perfect sense, but I just never thought about it before. And definitely Jeffrey's unique approach to marketing, where basically just opening doors for other people to then take advantage of. It was really, really interesting.
Well, first of all, he was extremely passionate, right? He really loved what he did. He really felt like he was helping people, and that's what was driving him, from what I could tell. So the passion was there, and the vision was there, and he wants to help, and he has a drive that he just translates into, again, it's easy to talk about, but from 200 to 22,000 LinkedIn followers, I mean, that is very impressive. Obviously, the man has a lot of stuff he wants to talk about and share with everyone, and if you have that many, it's because you're doing a really good job, so hats off to him.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what we've been seeing, where people are looking for this more personal connection, that we're very reliant on data and automation and that sort of thing, where Jeffrey, I think, represents this other side of that equation, where he's very available to the people that he's talking about, and he's putting a lot of good content that he's thought about, because he has these connections to people who are offering unique perspectives in the industry, so he can then put those out and make connections within this kind of very personal space, rather than 100% relying only on people reaching out to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very, very human way of doing it, right? I would say old school. Of course, LinkedIn is not old school, but it's an old way of it's human connections. I mean, he said he used to go to a lot of conferences, and of course COVID came and everything was shut down.
Yeah.
But now he's using that as his conference, constantly being online, just sharing information.
And even at the end, it was the comparison made to going to the pub to make the decisions. It's like, this is it. You're kind of sitting down and making a personal connection with the people you want to talk to.
Yeah. It is still fun to go to a pub once in a while.
Look, I'm from Australia. I know I have that culture.
No, it was really good. It was a breath of fresh air. I really like what his approach. That was a good episode.
Absolutely, very, very interesting, and very refreshing.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Zane.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.